it's no problem that the previous session that talks about all the edge applications that you can deploy went a little longer. That's okay, because it's really the combination of the industrial application deployments plus the open source foundation of Eve that brings us all together. So this part of the discussion, I've got two of the core Eve developers, fantastic developers, Ruslan Dautov and Mikhail Malyshev, and we're going to talk to them about, what is this open source project? Where does it live? And then Ruslan's got a few slides. He's going to even share about, the release process, upcoming. Mikhail's going to talk about the upcoming release, new developments, and so forth. And then just the community engagement things that we're doing. There's a link in the chat for the upcoming Eve Summit at the end of June. So, Ruslan, I thought we'd start with you, and you can tell us about the build release process. In fact, if you want to go through your presentation and just explain away, go for it.
Yeah, let me share the screen. Okay. Can you hear? Can you hear me well? Can you see my slides?
Yep, we see him.
Okay. So, what the project is, probably the people know because the station and have spoken with a lot of different people. So, how the release process is going on the platform and how we doing it. Evo is using the GitHub action on GitHub to build the system, and each PR, each contribution is passing this specific workflow, which open source. You can see the double check by GitHub. Test infrastructure, we use GitHub Actions VMs and Google Cloud Platform as VMs with nested virtualization. Hardware configuration we support on a packet nowadays is Equinix, Metal, Dell, HP, Supermicro, Huawei, Foxconn. Updated leads, you can have a look on the wiki page. So we keep updating wiki with our roadmap, future proposals, what's going on. Okay, what the building process and release process on EvoS, each contribution should be signed. So we have several workflows which passing every new PR, every new contribution, new hub commit. First of all, it should be signed. So you sign off your commit. Apache gets to check out your code styles, how it's written. Unit test will quickly pass simple tests and PR build. So after that, we will publish the PR build and new version of Eve, which will be submitted to a special GitHub account and tested on other platforms. If your contribution is approved and reviewers from our team will say that yes, it's good enough to test out on the Eden test workflow, and Eden is our second project in ecosystem of EFOS. We have 3 projects like Eden, Ada, and Eve, and Eden will test out the new version of Eve on different tests. It's test to run the Docker, VMs, hardware reboots, test out the IO performance, and will be every open, and you can check out which kind of tests is you failing. And when the Eden test is passed, everything will be put to the master, and after that, publish and do that, and every 2 weeks, with like a canonical patient, and every 2 weeks will be published and assets will be on GitHub. at the end, I will show you. So, oh, sorry, it's already late in our location. It's become dark. Release 8.1 released 10 days ago, and all assets will be available here. Plus, we keep pushing the all releases on the Docker as well, and you can pull the new version of Eve and assets from there. I think they will stop here about the workflow process, how it's working. Do anyone have questions or comments? Okay. Still. This is our release process and the release workflow for each community, how the contribution is appears in a probably like a Katie, what the next we should talk about the future or last up.
Yeah, so I think a few of us had an audio, little staticky with the audio, although we could see the slides just fine, or at least maybe it was on my side. There's always AV problems with these things. But you know, you mentioned the Eve roadmap, Ruslan. Mikhail, do you want to talk about some of the upcoming developments you have planned?
Oh, yes, for sure. So when we talk about the Eve release cycle, what you saw on the screen, let's say Eve Tech 8.1.0, it's a bit different. It's not what I'm going to talk about. We also have a big release cycle where we try to address a lot of customer issues, because definitely we are driven by customer needs. And this is how we cooperate, like open source community, each side of open source community and the customers as their needs, right? So we prepared a pretty huge list of some nice features you probably guys are going to like. So the next release will be called Release H. We have pretty long time frame to implement that, but we also have a pretty big list of features. So when we talk about the customer needs, there are three major categories of features we are going to talk about. So the first one is ease of use. If you ever try to install Eve on a hardware which is not in our official support list, or you try install Eve on a hardware which has a lot of different extension cards, let's say, or something like that. So it's not that easy. And we know about this problem. We're going to address this. One of the major things which we probably going to provide in Release H is a new fancy installer for you. With an interactive interface which will allow you to select the disk you're going to install on, select what kind of file system you are going to use, select what kind of disk you're going to use for your persist volume, where you store all of your valuable data, right? And also, if you ever try to configure Eve in environment with static IP addresses, or when you need to specify some server addresses manually, it's not that easy to do right now. It's always requires you to, perform some additional steps, and that installer will allow you to do that too. So you will get your, user-friendly interface, right?
So it sounds like you'll also get a lot more hardware configurability when you install Eve. You can say, I want this, I want that. You can sort of like fine tune it as part of that release process.
Yes, you will be able to fine tune it, especially if you are new to Eve and you don't really know how Eve works under the hood. So what kind of assumption Eve installer makes about your hardware configuration. It should be easy for the new people and for other people who just want to try if first before be engaged with the data. So I think this is really important. This is really important for us to have. So another thing another big thing is hardware enablement, right? So we want to run if on as many boxes, as many boards as we can. And right now, the main platform for us is x86. But even on x86, not all of the features are supported. For instance, customers come to us with build configuration of GPUs, some kind of extension boards, and this is what we are going to work on. We are going to improve the support for different kind of hardware available on the market. For instance, for NVIDIA GPUs, obviously, because this is the major vendor of GPU accelerators, which you guys use when you do some heavy lifting, heavy calculations, artificial intelligence, and a lot of customers do it because this is what people want right now on the edge. They want to do these calculations.
I wanted to ask you about that. I know you're not through the release H list yet, but in terms of you've seen a lot of what people do at the edge, and when you say customers, it really means like customers of EVOS, like these could also be ZEDEDA customers, right. It could be academic customers, it could be anyone who's using EVOS to virtualize the edge application. So a customer who wants to do machine image processing, what sort of really interesting uses have you seen in that?
Oh yes, we have a lot of interesting uses of EVOS. We have a pretty big customer which actually does image post-processing, video post-processing from the surveillance cameras and from the cameras on the production lines that can detect some defects in the in the product, right? So you have to do it in real time, and you process a huge amount of information. You cannot just feed into the cloud and
send it all to the cloud now. Yeah, video streams directly.
You just can't. It's just terabytes of data. So this is where this edge solution comes to play very nicely, and this is one of the biggest advantages of edge solutions and DFS in particular, I guess. So, and another use case, if you talk about some corner cases, I would say, if your hardware located somewhere in a very remote location in the forest, somewhere in desert, on an oil pumping site, in that locations, and you have a bunch of sensors, you need to process your information, and your connectivity is not stable, or maybe very expensive, or it's just does not appear all the time, but you still need to do is heavy maths on site, and this is another great application of if, I guess. So but we can go back to the roadmap we've been discussing, right? So this hardware enablement thing, and a few more features here are, we are going to introduce an API to provide the GPS data back to the controller, so you can track all of your hardware. And we also will provide a feature which is very desired by customers. It is CPU pinning. Yeah, so this is a CPU pinning. So CPU pinning is used when you want to maximize the bandwidth of your applications, right? So some applications that utilize DPDK stack, for instance, they usually require CPU pinning features. So this is what we are going to address and going to provide. One more thing we want to implement is SR-IOV, which is multifunction support for multifunction PCIe devices. So right now, unfortunately, EVE does not really support that. Yeah, going back to ease of use, I forgot one important thing. If you ever, as a customers, let's say, try to troubleshoot some issues related to EVE OS itself, it may be not that easy sometimes, and we have a very nice feature implemented by I forgot, but which will help us to implement remote access to edge nodes easily without extra hassle. And this is very important because edge nodes located in a very far away facilities, you have to have means to address any software related issues remotely. Otherwise, you need to send a man, and this is, of course, increases your cost, and it increases the time to serve the hardware, and it increases the downtime, and of course you're losing money in this case. So we are working on this. We know all these needs, and we're trying to address them nicely. So and actually, EVE is pretty good at this. I mean, you don't really need very high-skilled technician guys to be on site to solve EVE-related problems. And the third, like last but not least, of course, is the security. And this is what we are trying to improve day by day. There are a few features pretty unique to EVE. So the main one is measured boot. So it's pretty different from the secure boot you may be familiar with. Measured boot allows you to precisely measure every component in your system. And by measuring, I mean to calculate the hash of your component. Let's say the BIOS variables, bootloader, kernel, rootfs, and so on, so on. And not only calculate the hash, but you have kind of a hash chain. Every hash is added to the previous one. So you have a set of values that precisely identify your system. And if any component in the system is compromised, let's say somebody replaced the rootfs image, you immediately know about that, because all of these hashes, they will be recalculated, and they will be different. And we have, in a zCloud side, we have a golden set of hashes stored for your particular configuration. And next time EVE connects to the controller, we want to match these hashes and see if something goes wrong. We will show the alert. So right now we don't do it. We can just get the hashes and provide them to user. But in future, we want to do it automatically. So that's going to be, I think, a big step forward in the security as well.
See my chat, and I have to drop and then go to the next session. So finish the roadmap and then talk about the EVE summit.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. Kathy's got to run to another session. Mikhail, I think she's just asking if maybe you and Ruslan could say a few words about the EVE Design Summit that's going to be coming up on June 22nd in Berlin.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun event. I recommend all of you guys to just go to the link Katie posted above and There is no registration form yet, but please register for the EVE Summit. We are going to have a lot of in-depth technical discussions on site, and we are going to have this time we are going to have the summit in our brand new office. We are opening on June 1st. So yes, we are pretty excited about that. I haven't been there yet. Ruslan was. So yes, please come to the summit. We're going to have a lot of interesting discussions. You won't regret that.
That's great, Mikhail. Thank you. Are there any last questions in the chat while we've got Mikhail and Ruslan here?
TPM2.
Checking.
There's a question from Mike.
Yes, that's a known issue, Mike. That's you have to go to your BIOS and manually clean the TPM. You know that we will address it.
Yeah, probably we need to mention the several features which already released as well. For example, for the new feature which upcoming with GPS locations, complementary, which already released, we have silent mode.
Oh, that one when you have, some. Yeah, that's another great application, by the way, because we have people who work with explosives on site, right? And they want to silence all their radios. And by the way, it is we leverage the local profile server as well, as I understand in this case.
Yep.
And another cool feature we are about to implement, it actually uses the local profile server too. A lot of people complained there is no power off button in a Z control. So how am I supposed to power off my hardware? So like, guys, you're not supposed to, because if it's somewhere, in the desert, you have to send somebody and turn it back on. So this is why we did not really implement this. However, there will be a power off button soon, release H. So let's say when you go to the maintenance mode, you can power off your hardware, you can move it to the different facility and power it back on. It then will appear, as it was before. So you don't need to worry about any data loss or potential data loss if you just do the power cut. We also working on in a like connection to this feature. We are also working on a support for UPS units. So the EVE node can be shut down gracefully if a UPS event comes, and you can shut down your applications without any data loss.
Yep. Probably in terms of data loss and data storage, just probably a few weeks ago, we finished up the feature of supporting the ZFS file system. So it's already available. And you need to just turn on that in a grab configuration, and the ZFS will be on your build.
Yep. This is a cool one. I know people waited a long time for ZFS support.
We even have some kind of internal benchmarks, right? Which is increasing the speed. ZFS showing the better results than typical file systems.
Right, and I can add to this. It's not just ZFS support as a single volume. We also support different configurations for different RAID configurations. I don't have on top of my head which particular configurations we support, but we do support a few.
Yep, we have RAID 1, RAID 5, till RAID 6. Yep. And the minimum disk is 1. I think, yeah.
Do you remember, Ruslan, if you already have a support for some ZFS properties in the Z Cloud?
Not sure about that.
Yeah, we need to ask Raghu.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty much the whole roadmap we have for the release age. There are some few minor things we're going to address. One of them that Mike mentioned, and some others, but I think those were the highlights. If something comes up, we definitely. But it's not fixed. The list is not fixed, of course. It's like if some urgent demand comes, we try to address it as soon as possible. And feel free to contribute to Eve, guys. This is completely an open source project. We're open for any discussion. We have wiki. We post all our designs, proposals to wiki. So feel free to add any comments, suggestions, and of course, join us during the Eve Summit.
Yeah, the Eve Summit, as usual, I mean, it will be in Berlin. Register on that. Probably Mike, me definitely will be there. And most of members of the ZEDEDA Eve team will be there as well. You can discuss with your desires, your feature proposals. Even if you don't want to write down the feature proposal, write the code. We will listen. We will take notes and implement, and of course, taking in a backlog or roadmap to discuss with our team members, community, how to implement it in a better way.
Or even just your use cases.
Yep. Sometimes when we're writing the code to implement some of features, we didn't expect that users will use the Eve in that way. Installing two Eves on the same disk, or it's sometimes they even like downgrade the version of Eve. Like we're usually thinking about the new features that the developers or clients will keep update.
Keep upgrading, yeah, going forward.
Yeah, sometimes the people want to downgrade, and suddenly it appears that some problems there.
All right, so are there any questions? Maybe feature requests?
Yeah, and
for the
plus,
PPM,
don't forget to click the star on a project, because it's important for us and important for Eve visibility to the GitHub community as well.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Plus, about the new features, release notes, we keep publishing on our LFH Slack in the Eve channel. So all new features, new items, which is coming, released, pushed to the merge, it will be discussed there.
Or if you guys need any urgent help, or if you're stuck with something, you're always welcome to our Eve Slack channel.
Yep.
LFH Slack channel, so we can discuss issues you have.